So what sort of foul deeds and sinister plot are we scheming this week at Twisted Genius? We're doing a game jam!
Twisted Jenius presents Developing in the Dark with False Prophet.
How you doing tonight? Excellent. False Prophet here with Twisted Jenius. And in addition to doing those other inspirational villain videos about psychology, philosophy, those kinds of things, we are also game developers, in case you forgot. And this week, we are doing a game jam. Now, this isn't going to be a massive game jam that involves a whole lot of other people, because we're not very social. We actually like to lurk around in the darkness a lot. It's creepier that way. But we're doing an in-house game jam to test an idea that we have for a game and try to stretch ourselves a little bit to see if we can do this, to see if we can pull this off. So, for those of you who don't know what a game jam is, the word is a combination of game as in video game and jam session, where a group of people, in this case just the two of us, the Twisted Jenius team, get together and try to create a game over a relatively short period of time. In this case, we're giving ourselves 1 week to do it. Now, traditionally, I haven't really been a fan of the idea of game jams because from a business standpoint, they didn't seem very practical to me. Now, I'm sure there's some people who will disagree with that, but games take so long to make and require so much planning that I often think that the idea of a game jam is not always the most productive thing, especially from a financial standpoint. But in this case, we decided to do it because we want to test something. We want to see how difficult a game in this particular type of game that we're looking at will be to make. We want to see if we can do it and just kind of experiment, and this actually speaks to a larger point. The idea that it's good to push yourself a little bit. And since this is something that we haven't really done before, I'm kind of interested to know what this is going to be like. I want to see if this is going to be something that we can do. Can we pull it off? And we're actually trying a new type of tech here. We're experimenting, and that's also good. So we're actually pushing ourselves in a couple of ways, and that's a good way to grow, which ties in to the kind of inspirational villainy theme of this channel, as well as just our normal game development blog. Now, the game we're actually working on right now, or that we're going to be doing for this game jam, is not the same game that we've been covering in the past devlogs here. Normally, in the past, our focus has always been on games involving 3D art, and that's slightly unusual, especially for a dev team of just 2 people our size here. But we like 3D games. But this time, we decided we're going to go in the complete opposite direction. 2D graphics? No. No graphics. What we're actually trying to do is see if we can make a game in a week for smart speakers. Those kind of Alexa Echo sort of devices. We want to see if this is something that we can do, how difficult it'll be, and if we like it or not. This is an emerging technology. We haven't seen anything quite like this before, and so we're looking to see if anything will come of this. It's an experiment, really. So that begs the question, will anything come of this? Well, I don't know. That's kind of the point. Kind of makes it exciting, doesn't it? We're not sure if what we do here will ever see the light of day, or I guess more like be heard by the light of day, since there are no actual graphics with this. But we want to see if we can do it anyway. We want to see how this will turn out, because even if it turns out to be a complete catastrophe, at least it'll be interesting. I also want to make it clear that this does not in any way mean that we're abandoning games with graphics, not by a long shot. But I am interested to see what this tech can do, and I think this will kind of push things from a creative standpoint, making a game that is purely audio. Now, of course, this isn't anything completely new or innovative. Plenty of games have been made with just audio, and in fact, there are already plenty of games for this kind of platform here, these smart speakers that we're talking about. But I have a theory that the best games for these kinds of devices have yet to be made, and the ones we're seeing now are going to seem very primitive and simplistic compared to what will happen in the future. Now, of course, because these types of games are lacking graphics, this means that we can't push graphics capability, obviously. But there's other things that can be pushed, and in fact, I'm willing to bet that the best games for this kind of tech will probably not even really resemble games in the sense that we're thinking about them, or will be a little bit different. I think a lot of the games that are out for this sort of technology right now are trying to mimic other games too much, other types of games for other media. And I think that's a mistake. I think that the sort of games that has to be created for this kind of tech has to be custom made for this platform, has to have this platform in mind, and this is a radical shift. So for those of you who follow games, if you're comparing something like console or PC to mobile, although those things are a little bit different, and you do have to create games for those different types of platforms in mind, ideally. Some people try to port stuff, but that doesn't always work out so well. But when you create games for those different platforms, they're still very similar. They're mobile versus consoles. Still have a lot of the same basic principles. There's different, input mechanisms, obviously, controllers versus the, buttons on your smartphone, that sort of thing. But for something like this, smart speakers, we're talking about a completely different paradigm, a completely different way of thinking about this. And I think that this will have to be approached in a different way to really maximize the potential of this platform from a gaming standpoint. And so I'm interested to see what we can do with that. And I'm not claiming that we're going to come up with something completely groundbreaking here, but I am just interested to see what we can come up with, and whether or not it'll work or not, and whether it's any good or not. Now, another element of this is, of course, future speculation. I'm channeling my inner mad scientist here by trying to guess what's coming next. And in case you didn't guess from my last week's video, which is literally called The Future of Humanity, well, I do like to speculate about what's coming, especially tech-wise. And, of course, this is also a business thing as well. Being a game developer, it's good to look ahead because the industry moves very quickly. So you want to try to see, guess, look at the patterns, figure out what's happening, what's going on, and where things are going. And that's a big part of why we're embarking on this particular project, just for this week, to see if we can get a sense of what this is like. What's it like to develop a game for this kind of technology? Can't hurt, right? But beyond just the practical business aspects of this, I also enjoy just coming up with new inventions, new tech ideas there, because it's interesting. And sometimes those ideas are a little bit evil, too. And here's a good example of that. Last week I hurt my foot and I actually had to go to the doctor. And here I actually am wearing a fashionable boot thing. Check this thing out. Don't know if you can see that. It's lovely, isn't it? Yes, it's a Velcro boot thing that I have to wear now. And I actually had to go out in traffic for this. I usually try to avoid rush hour in the mornings, but I had to go to an appointment, so I went out and did that. That was fun. Fun in quotation marks. Fun. But, something occurred to me while I was driving, commuting to the doctor's office there. I was stuck in traffic, and I had this idea. Now, we're all familiar with the concept of bumper stickers, right? Stickers you put on the back of your car that help to communicate your feelings about various topics and things to the other drivers for some reason. People feel like they like to do this. The idea I had was, what if you were to actually have some sort of digital, maybe LED sort of setup, maybe some other type of lighting technology, where you could actually put text out there on the back of your car in real time. So the way this would probably work is you would have some sort of voice thing, and you would just speak into it, and it would appear as text to the other drivers outside of your car there in a, electronic format there. Basically, it would be voice recognition software translated into a, printed out, or not printed out, but output form in the form of text that other drivers could read in the place of a bumper sticker, for example. And having something like this would be a really positive thing because it would allow for communication to the other drivers and great civil discourse in our roadways. I'm just kidding. This would be the most horrible thing ever. Just think about this for a minute. This was just... Can you imagine... Okay, like, just aside from the obvious problems with this, such as, increased accidents because people would be reading other people's text instead of driving, or, people speaking into their car, speaker microphones there instead of driving. This would be the most god-awful thing ever. I'm willing to bet that if you actually were to, sell a product like this and implement this kind of system, it would probably make YouTube comments seem mature and reasonable by comparison, okay? This would just be the most horrible thing. It's like, it would be like if you combined all of the bad points of a internet forum with all of the anger and road rage of driving and traffic, and just take the worst parts of both of those things and combine them. Can you just imagine the absolute hate that would be going on as a result of this if everyone could just voice their feelings to other drivers without having to see them face to face right there in text? This is like the most evil thing ever. Just think, instead of the bumper sticker, "Keep honking, I'm reloading," classic witty bumper sticker, you would actually know that the person in the car just said that. Just think about this. That brings a whole nother element to this sort of thing. Just the profanity. Oh, and that doesn't even include all the other stuff that could go wrong with this. Like, for example, people accidentally leaving their microphones on while they're talking to themselves or yelling at other drivers or talking on the phone or talking to someone else in the vehicle. I mean, just the stuff that would likely show up on this. and the increased hostility that would lead to from already really inconvenient traffic situations. I was thinking about this, stuck in traffic, and just laughing my head off while stuck in the car there, just sitting alone in the car, because it would just be the most horrible thing ever. And I totally want to do this. Now, there's probably be some legal problems with this, and even if there wasn't, you can be pretty damn sure they're gonna make some laws against this pretty soon, if there aren't already, because, yeah, that wouldn't be good, but it's funny as hell to me. Just what a horrible invention. And I'm wondering if you market it right, could you get away with that? Could you actually sell something like that? I don't know. I'm not even trying, that's why I'm putting it out there. But, yes, because you could almost kind of argue, well, wait a second, this could actually, have a new form of communication. We have the tech to do this. This is completely reasonable from a technology standpoint. We could totally do this. So, you could almost say, okay, well, this is a new way to communicate with other drivers. You can, make sure, people know what you're doing, what's going on. It's, more complex than just a simple blinker, but that makes it more feasible, makes it more interesting, it makes it a better system of communication. But in reality, it would just be the most terrible thing ever. With so many problems. Just so bad. And that's... and I almost want to do that just for that. I mean, I don't think, I would actually try to do this for practical reasons, because it would require, a all kinds of money. There probably would be laws against it pretty quick if there weren't already, but it's a really funny idea to me. So I just wanted to share that with you. If you ever wondered how a evil genius's mind works, there you go. There's some insight. You're stuck in traffic and you come up with ideas like that. That's like, yeah, that is going to be the most horrible thing ever, and that's why it's funny. And the best part about that invention is that the reason it's so horrible is because of human nature. From a logical standpoint, if people were reasonable creatures, that should actually work to a certain extent. But we're not, and that's why it's really funny. The biggest flaws with that, and the reason it would just be such a catastrophe, and it would probably lead to so much more hostility on the roadways, and so many more accidents, and just so much bad stuff, is purely due to human nature. Purely due to the flaws, exploiting the flaws of human psychology, and that is really funny to me for some reason. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more villainous inspiration and dark fun. I'm False Prophet with Twisted Jenius saying, stay evil, and good night. In my state, at least, we have these big signs going over certain parts of the interstates there that say things like, this many deaths have been, reported on the roadways this year in this state, to try to scare people into driving safer. I always thought it would be funny if they actually changed that number in real time, like updated it. Like if you're just driving, you see it there, and then the number just goes up by a couple of digits like that. Because I feel like if you really want to scare people into, driving safer, that's the way to do it. Just be driving there, see this many thousand people, then the last digit just changes by a couple of, yeah, I think I'm just gonna drive slower now. Yeah.